what we work with in this program is matching pranayamas to mostly to doshic types, so vata, pitta, and kapha, and balancing the doshas with pranayama. So, for instance, you might do um, alternate nostril breathing to pacify vata, or sometimes sort of controlled heated practice for pitta, and then a lot of movement like Kapalabhati for kapha. So those of you that have been in the course a while, you know this. And if you don't know that yet, you will. So there are other ways to look at it. So in some other traditions I've studied from Krishnamacharya, you might look at it not Ayurvedically, but you might look at pranayama as like whether you're sort of building strength and vitality versus and the sort of controlled use of the sympathetic nervous system, or kind of mellowing people out, parasympathetic, reducing anxiety, which is an extremely popular reason to do pranayama. So those are the two of many things you could do with pranayama therapeutically. And so you might do different types of pranayama, and the most kind of obvious example would be, inhalation extenders, or building your inhalation. Viloma is a popular way to do that, where you inhale in parts your inhalation, or inhale longer on your inhalation, and then exhale, usually like the same length. So let's say inhaling for a count of 8, exhaling for a count of 8, but then learning how to inhale and retain, inhale again and retain, and then exhale long and slow. So that would be a practice that would build vitality versus learning how to really control and lengthen your exhalations, which would be a practice that helped the parasympathetic, reducing anxiety and sympathetic tone. So that's a different, not totally different, but just a different paradigm, like a different sort of theoretical set you might hear about or learn or already know about pranayama. And so what I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to mention anyway, is they're not in conflict with each other. It's just a matter of what you're looking to do. And you could, and I might at some point extend the course in this way, sort of make correlations between pitta balancing breaths and this like sympathetic, parasympathetic kind of breathing vitality and relaxation pranayama techniques. So they're not in opposition. So that's the first thing, because I had some questions on that conversation. And then the second thing is what's the role of asana in all of this? And so we have a lot of moving and breathing, kind of simple moving and breathing in this course, because that's what you're going to use most of the time. But what I would say is that for most people, it's very difficult to do anything you would consider an advanced pranayama. And I don't mean advanced in the whole world of aesthetics, but advanced for householders. So anything that requires you to be doing pauses, or really extending your inhalations or exhalations in a way that you haven't done before is going to be easier, and you're going to adapt to it faster if you use your body. So for example, bridge pose, say lifting your hips and lifting your arms on the inhale, and then controlling the exhale and bringing your hips and your arms down, and sort of timing your breaths so that they sync there. And then if you wanted to work on your inhalations or exhalations, let's say you're lengthening your exhalation, doing that in that motion will actually be a powerful preparatory practice for not doing it in motion. And that can be a little counterintuitive, because you would think possibly well, it's easier just to sit there and do it than to do all this body stuff. But the body has to be sort of synced. And when you think of the body, you really think about it as a kosha. So not just the body, but the annamaya kosha has to be synced with the pranic body. So someone who does a lot of breath and asana work is going to be already attuned that way. But if you have somebody off the street who doesn't do that, or a yoga person that's all physical and doesn't really use the breath, they're going to need to do that before they can really get into really shifting their ability to maintain inhale or maintain exhale or lengthen their pauses. So the way you'd see this really come into play therapeutically is if you're really working with somebody, say, with strong, emotional states in a mental health capacity, you might find that teaching them diaphragmatic belly breath is like useful, and it calms them down a little and they like it, but it doesn't really get you where you want to go. And that's because in order to get the really larger pranic body effects, one would have to really extend that exhalation and really start to get comfortable without straining on the kumbhaka and the pause after the exhalation. And the way to really do that is to teach somebody a series of asanas with that involved. So simple asanas like one I just mentioned, like a standing forward bend, where you're exhaling going forward. Practice inhalations and cobra, coming up and down. It doesn't have to be fancy asana. Getting the body involved will prep them to be able to really get the big pranic effects when they're doing seated pranayama without the asana. So that's my brief description of that. Posting this for a couple of people I was talking to, but I hope that was helpful. Pranayama is elusive because for some people, because it has different functionality. So you have a kind of physical breath functionality, and then you have a sort of therapeutic effect functionality. And then lastly, you have a you could call it the spiritual effect, but it's really the really deeper inner evolutionary effect that pranayama can help you move towards. And most of that is based around getting the prana, getting in touch with the prana that moves up and down your central channel, the sushumna. And that's what moves us towards like evolutionary changes in ourselves. But that's not really the same as the therapeutic effect, although it can have that effect. But I would say most of the time, not all the time, we're actually going for the middle one, which is like this therapeutic effect, right? So sometimes we have to use our body, get our body involved. That's why you see when all the sequences where there's lots of moving and breathing to make that happen.